Out here in the wild, where the heart beats free, we're crafting our dreams, just my family and me. From sunrise to sundown, we're making our way, building our legacy, day by day. Welcome to the Wildheart Podcast, where passion meets purpose. Homeschooling, homesteading, living dreams that serve us. Together we're stronger.
Welcome.
I was jamming out. I was not expecting it to be like an instant end. Okay.
Welcome to the Wildheart Podcast. I cut the intro short.
Wildheart Podcast. Wildheart Legacy Podcast? Or Wildheart Podcast? I don't remember anymore.
This is the podcast that we do on a bi-weekly basis.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, my chair's squeaking and it distracted me.
And you're also on your phone.
Trying to pull up our podcast.
So, today we're talking about. You gotta scroll down because when I resize the window, it adjusts it. I realized.
We're talking about the Canadian kindergarten curriculum.
Yes, across Canada.
Yeah.
And so this is my idea for this one was essentially to it's more informational. So like obviously we have our oldest is in kindergarten and so we just I just kind of wanted to know what is across Canada for curriculum for kindergarten. We're not going to go into detail about all the nitty-gritty stuff. This is just kind of a general overview of what's out there, and basically we'll just have our commentary on each province and just kind of go through it that way. But first, what have we been doing for the last 2 weeks?
Homeschool co-op planning. It's basically my entire life.
You've been very deep into it.
Yep. But we finished planning until December, so.
Oh, really?
Yep.
So you're pretty much almost into the next timeline year, chronological year.
Yeah, we are. We have planned all the events until mid-December, and then we'll take a break for a couple of weeks for Christmas and New Year's, and then we'll resume back in January in 2025, which sounds outlandish. I cannot believe
wild.
It sounds crazy.
Wild.
Yeah.
What do you have any tidbits to throw in, learnings, things you'd like to commentate on?
I can commentate on a lot of things.
Well, what do you want to share?
I don't know. I don't know what to share about.
What did you do today?
We did a little. Oh yeah, I was like, what did we do today? We did a botany scavenger hunt with our little homeschool co-op today.
Sounds fun.
So we got together with a group of the homeschool co-op peoples, and we essentially did a little botany lesson. So we talked about different types of trees that were in the park that we were at, different types of leaves that can be found, different plants that's around, and that kind of stuff. So we talked about all that, and then once we kind of gave a little like botany overview, everyone got a paper for their scavenger hunt, and then we went for a nice little walk through the park, looking for the things that were on the list.
Printout.
Yeah.
You had a comment about your printouts and like the sequence, the learning that you had.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to share that or?
Well, okay. So we've been running for. What are we? We're the first week of October. So we've had 4 events so far with our homeschool group, and mainly just like our first 2 like major sciencey based ones were like the last couple of weeks. We realized that one of the things that we found was that when we handed out handouts, so the first the first sciencey based one, we were doing a creek study. So we were talking about the creek and the ecosystem, the water cycle, and we were going to do a little bit of testing on water quality in that creek. And we realized that as we were doing that, like we had like, here's all this, like all the worksheets, here's all the information, and we found it very hard to kind of like interject the things that we wanted to like teach or share. So then we really pared it down for the second portion, that like part 2 of it, which was the water filtration. And
yeah,
then
you made it with the 1 liter bottles?
Yeah, 1 liter bottles. We made water filters. And so we really pared down the amount of worksheets that we had to, I think, just a single-sided, 1-page double-sided. And that worked much better. But we found, again, that we were trying to teach while people were, like, trying to work on the worksheet or trying to get information, and it just didn't seem to jive.
Yeah.
One of our local provincial parks does a really good interpretive programming for homeschool students. So we attended that last Thursday, and I was saying to the other mom that I do the co-op with, and I was like, okay, like I really enjoyed the way that, you know, they do their interpretive programming, because they have like a lesson or a learning piece that's interactive. So they're asking questions and, you know, kind of helping the kids kind of really get a good
teach, if you will.
Yeah, they're doing I would say more guiding, but anyways. So they do a lot of that, and then they do like the action or the activity that's happening, right? So we tried that today, and it seemed to go much more smoothly. The kids were a lot more calm, and then that way too, like we're not as reliant on like the parents being like, shh, you gotta listen, because we were finding that the like parents weren't necessarily pausing the kids to get like for
involved.
us to be able to speak. It was kind of like we were just kind of talking over everyone. So it's just one of those things where, like, you know, I mean, although we kind of started this back in February, it's kind of one of those things where this is like our more organized version of this, where it's actually structured around the curriculum and how we're kind of, I don't know, managing that. Yeah. Yeah, I think as we kind of go, we're learning and we're processing and we're kind of figuring out what our next steps are and how we can improve things overall. And so that was a big takeaway from today. We're really paring down the amount of worksheets that we're doing, with a big push of like, you know, bring your own notebooks, because we want people to be working in notebooks versus like working on worksheets and stuff.
Yeah, papers get lost. You know, duotangs, all that fun stuff. Binders their pages get ripped out and whatnot.
Yeah.
But notebooks, the whole pen to paper or pencil to paper, there's something to be said about that.
Well, and it's different too, right? Because like we cover basically all in elementary school grades. So it's, you know, from 5 all the way up to 10, 11 kind of thing. So it's really tough for a lot of some of the younger kids, because they don't write and they don't read yet. So if we hand them a worksheet, they don't quite know.
Look at it blankly. And
and then that requires the parents to, you know, be a little bit more like, okay, we're writing this here, we're writing this here, and that kind of stuff. Whereas, like, and that kind of takes them out of that experience, where I think if we just, like, today
did the activity. Yeah,
like today we were doing the botany, so we were talking about the different leaves. So we were talking about, like, the chordate leaves, which are more heart-shaped. Then we have the deltoid leaves that are more triangle-shaped. And then so when we went on our walk, and we were like, oh, look at this leaf. Do we remember what shape this leaf was? The kids were able to kind of recall it a little bit more easily than if they were just sitting there reading a worksheet, right?
I found, obviously I'm not there during the exercises and the learnings, but one thing I've always tried to just help with the recall afterwards. Obviously I want to hear about the day, but, you know, the general question of how was your day, good, the question that I've reframed is now, what's one thing you could teach me about what you learned today? And she actually sat down and kind of gave it a good thought, and like, even though she wasn't able to really spit it out in terms of like, here's your learning, but like she was able to be like, well, we did this. And it's like, oh, we did this, but at one point she's like, well, you could just talk to Mom about it. I'm like, no, but I want to hear it from you. I'm like,
That's perfect.
So close, but yeah, I think now she's like, I like how it made her think about it, because now she's like, oh, I want to teach Papa something about it.
Yeah.
And she started talking about things that happened in the playground after. I'm like, yeah, like, I'm okay with learning what it's tenfold better a conversation if you're teaching me something that you did in the playground or anywhere. If you learned something today, yeah, I want to hear about it.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot deeper of a conversation than, how was your day? Good. Or like, I don't want to talk about it, or whatever you do.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, like, on our way home from, these events, I'm always asking her, like, oh, did you enjoy what we did? Did you have any questions? Anything that, you feel like you need a little bit more explanation on? And I find it's easier for her to kind of have those conversations sometimes when she's not looking directly at you or not put on the spot. Like when we're driving, it's easier.
It's like just like a off-kilter conversation.
Yeah, where she kind of is like, it's not as pressure-filled. Right, where she's like on the spot and she has to answer a question. It's not
a test. It's just a conversation at that point, right?
Yeah. So I think she really enjoyed this one. She was loving running around and finding all the things, and she's like,
oh, which reminds me, I need to set up a scavenger hunt for her tomorrow, and I have to draw a map in the house because she wants. I was gonna because she's like, oh, do you know what I want you to do tomorrow morning? Like, set up an activity for you, because we were literally moments before talking about refraction at the superstore, looking at the lobsters, because she's like, I think there's 6 lobsters in there. I'm like, oh, let me show you something. If you look straight ahead, how many do you see? 4. If you look kind of where you see 2 over here and 2 over here, so it's like the angle of the tank. She's like, oh, so she kind of like saw it. I'm like, oh, this, the glass and the arrow, how it refracts the other way. That was exactly what I was thinking of. Like, oh, I'll set that up for her tomorrow. But she wanted a scavenger hunt. So anyway, that's a thing that you could maybe do if you feel so inclined.
You can play around with water. She likes doing that.
Yeah. So I had to go up on the roof this last weekend. We had some pretty crazy wind, and our roof is on its last legs.
Well, one portion of the roof is on its last legs.
The south-facing section of the roof that isn't behind another house is basically it's been beat up and sun-baked, and it's been not at its peak for the last little bit, and I'm not concerned about, I'll say, like 85 to 90% of the house, and the section that does have questionable roof. It's over the unfinished garage, which is, I mean, I'm not overly worried about it, to be honest. That being said, I still might go up there and patch some of the tiles, the roof tiles that are missing there. Shingles, roof tiles. Yes.
We'll just put roof tiles on there.
The roof tiles. I work construction. I know words. So anyway, still might go up there and fix it.
Just a few spots that are missing.
Just to make it last until I redo the roof next year, I think. But yeah, we're winding down. Fall is coming. Snow isn't here yet, but it's could be.
Not yet, please.
Not here yet.
Apparently,
we never know.
Somewhere in Manitoba is getting snow right now.
Oh, there you go.
Snow Lake, I think it was called, which aptly named.
Fitting.
Or was it Swan Lake? I don't know.
Snow swans.
Snow Swan Lake. They're done.
Shall we head into today's topic?
Yes, let's drive right into it.
So we have We live in Canada. There's provinces in Canada. They
And
go
territories.
and territories. We're not. I don't know if we're even. I
I
don't
don't
even know.
think-
I mean, of course they have education in territories. It's not that they don't. I didn't do any research into what the education is in the
I'm
territories.
gonna say they probably borrow from
Ontario.
the provinces. Actually, you know what? Okay, random side tangent. Apparently, Manitoba has one of the best school curriculums
Oh.
in the world. I don't know exactly.
Let's
what
just
the-
say in Canada.
across Canada, and so a lot of places will actually borrow from our curriculum,
Okay.
which is kind of cool.
Sweet.
That's so.
Do you want to
says-
start west to east or east to west for our provinces? West to east.
I'm like, what direction? I don't know why I always like.
When we go to the mountains, it is to the west.
Yes, I'm like trying to like figure out what direction this was.
British Columbia. That's the furthest west province.
As far as we're aware, yes.
Their framework seems to be emphasized by play-based learning and developing of social, emotional, cognitive skills. They kind of focus on social and emotional learning, emotional regulation, which, you know, for kindergartners, important to start learning. You're not going to learn it yet.
Yeah.
But
You don't
it's
fully learn that until you're like 25, if that.
Some people never learn it.
No.
It's physical development, obviously developing the motor skills, fine and gross, and you noticing when your child is looking at the fine, little things, and then the gross, throwing things and kicking things. Hopefully not people or other kids. And then communication, language development, early literacy, creative development, making sure there's art and expression, and then basic number concepts. So basically there's like a competency-based curriculum. It just kind of prepares them for aligning for the rest of school and in the regular curriculum. The competency-based curriculum is it just kind of goes through two subcategories: the critical thinking and creative thinking. That's just obviously critical thinking is kind of analyzing, evaluating information, problem solving, and making those kind of informed decisions, while creative thinking is more introducing innovation.
Innovative thought.
Yeah, just having curiosity and the ability to kind of come up with your own solutions or ideas.
Thinking outside the box.
I like that. Want to do the next province?
Which would be Alberta. So Alberta's framework is more about holistic development, so aiming to ensure readiness for grade 1 through a balanced play-based structured learning. So they balance play-based and structure. Main areas focused upon are literacy and numeracy, so early reading, writing, and math skills. Physical well-being, so encouraging active play and physical health education. Citizenship and identity, so learning about self and community. Creative expression through music, art, and drama. Environment and community awareness, so an introduction to basic environmental sciences. Alberta's approach to balanced academic readiness with play-based learning and the future implications for changes in I see what we're doing. Okay. Provincial policy. Why that was hard, I don't know. Words are hard sometimes.
So Saskatchewan, the kindergarten in Saskatchewan, it's designed to be more play-oriented. So child-centered, play-oriented with strong focus in social and emotional development. Building self-awareness and connectivity to others. It's good to develop your identity and interdependence, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Well, literacy, numeracy, it seems to be a common theme. It's a good thing.
Obviously.
Learning your numbers and letters, you gotta learn those. Sense of time and place. So, basically understanding where you are in the community and your environment, and in starting to engage in learning, trying to spark curiosity and creativity. They often start developing. So as we kind of move over to the provinces, I guess it looks like the role with First Nations and Métis perspectives in Saskatchewan kindergarten curriculum is part of their community-based learning. So I guess they start learning about the Métis
And First Nations. The Indigenous peoples.
Yes.
Manitoba. Whoop whoop. So the Manitobans' curriculum for kindergarten emphasizes inquiry-based learning, particularly in literacy and numeracy. So focusing on areas of personal and social development, emphasizing on the emotional well-being and social interactions between other students. Language arts is a very foundational skill and helps with communication and literacy. Mathematics, we have an introduction to numbers and patterns. Science and technology, I believe at this point we have about 3 core clusters for science where we start learning about the natural world. And then we have health and physical education, so development of physical coordination and understanding of healthy living. We in Manitoba start drilling like healthy living into children like super early. We're looking at like the food pyramid, well, I'm just saying this is government learning, right? You look at I was going to call it the food map, but that is not what it's called.
The food maze.
Anyways, we look at that. We also look at like how to keep your body healthy in different ways of, kind of.
You know how we do it at
rounding
home? We ask what the healthiest thing on their plate is, and then they answer, and we guide them through the answer.
Well, we started with learning different
what the
foods.
foods. We actually, I remember this exercise. I remember when we had the paper on the table where our daughter got to draw, a lettuce. I think she drew a steak, and she drew, what was the starch? It was like a potato or something, or fries. I think it was fries. And so we drew all the different food groups, I guess, if you will, and I just helping identify what's on the plate. That helped her a lot. And then once we kind of did away with the papers, it was just identifying what's the healthiest choices, and going so far as like, hey, what's a healthy option that if they're she's really craving snacks, she's like, oh, I want a snack, like, okay, what's a healthy snack we can have today? And she's made amazing choices. Like when she's confronted about it and like is kind of asked like, hey, that's great that you want snacks, but like, what's a healthy snack? And she usually answers amazingly. Like it's a smoothie or a banana or apple, like fruit.
So often a smoothie, like if she's like, I want to eat this snack and it's chocolate or candy, and then we're like, but you didn't really eat as much of your dinner, maybe we should follow up with something a little bit better. She's like, all right, I'll have a smoothie.
Smoothie's never a bad option the way we make them. Protein powder, greens, and just a few fruit and just water. Nothing crazy.
I add milk. Give
really?
it a little bit, give it a little bit more creaminess and a little bit more protein.
I don't know how I feel about that. I've never had one with milk like that. With fruit.
Fine.
No, I just personally have never had one with milk like that.
You are the weird person who's like, ooh, fruit and milk, it curdles the milk. It's like, no, sir.
That's conditioning from my childhood.
Yeah. Because, we have yogurt that has fruit pieces in it.
It is still a thing that I grew up with. I'm sorry. I just don't eat it. How do you think they make? Like, I don't deny that it's a fallacy. It's something I'm working through.
How do you think they make like
yogurt?
It's smoothies at like Booster Juice or something like that.
No, with the milk.
No, they make it with yogurt, which is a dairy product, which is milky.
Let's move to the center of Canada.
Ugh. Ontario sounds awful.
Actually,
for their
well,
curriculum.
the physical center of Canada is actually in Manitoba. Fun fact. Anyway,
Yes.
Ontario. Full day.
I will say that Ontario sucks for their curriculum. I hear it from a lot of unschooler
Folks.
groups. They hate the curriculum.
We're not here to bash school curriculum. We're just here to discuss it.
I'm sorry, we aren't here to bash the curriculum?
The goal is to not bash. It's to be informational.
Oh.
Ontario's
Homeschool.
full day kindergarten program. So that's already okay, they're all full day, I guess.
No.
Some of them are moving into half days.
No. Here in Manitoba, we have half day every other day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
In some lower income schools, you might have a full day just to kind of give you a little bit more childcare coverage.
Mm-hmm.
However, most of the schools are half day every other day
interesting.
in Manitoba.
So Ontario's full day kindergarten program focuses on play-based models, encouraging inquiry, exploration, and communication.
We want to get you into factory-minded readiness right off the hop.
They want you to belong and contribute.
That sounds so creepy.
Social participation and group dynamics is something they focus on very heavily, it seems. Self-regulation and well-being, emotional awareness and self-control.
Because your kindergarten has self-control. Sorry.
Problem solving and innovating, critical thinking, hands-on learning. So the next is demonstrating literacy and math behaviors. So it's not necessarily that you're learning it's just the behavior of learning it.
You have to demonstrate behavior of learning.
I'm not sure how that.
It's fine. Encouraging reading, writing, and mathematical thinking through inquiry-based activities.
Yeah, so Ontario's for this. By the way, just to clarify, a lot of these are sourced. So the source for this is Ontario Ministry of Education.
I think most of them are the Ministry of Education
the ministry.
For the province.
Previously, it was the
Manitoba Education Early Childhood Learning, which is basically our ministry.
And then there's Saskatchewan Ministry of Education.
I was going to say, I think we're the only ones that
don't have a ministry.
Which is why we're the best ones. No, just kidding.
So Quebec.
So Quebec is a preschool education program, includes 4 and 5-year-olds, with the focus on preparing children for formal school through play. So the focused areas are motor development, so focusing really on physical activities and coordination, social development through building interpersonal skills and relationships, language development. Of course, they are predominantly a French-speaking.
You will speak French.
Yeah, they are.
Or not? I don't know. I can't say.
Well, their official language is French, right?
Yeah.
They are, I think, one of 2 official French-speaking provinces. Oh my God, my language. Anyways, so the language development in French or English, language skills, depending on the language of instruction. I did not know that they had English-speaking schools there, but that's cool.
Makes sense. I'd imagine they'd have this equivalent of French immersion that we have.
English immersion schools.
Yeah,
that sounds fun.
I could see that. Because I went to French immersion from grade 1 to 4.
Yeah.
And I imagine that they would have an English immersion if French is the predominant schooling.
Yeah, they seem so proudly French that I don't know. They are French Canadian. We must be French. I don't know. Anyways, cognitive development, so encouraging curiosity, critical thinking, and problem solving.
You could have never guessed this last point.
Yeah, the strong emphasis on French language acquisition for non-francophones, and how, how
bilingualism impacts cognitive and social growth.
Yeah.
So they want you to speak French, understandably so for their French province.
Yeah.
New Brunswick, I feel like they have a pretty high francophone
They do. They are, I think,
populace.
the only other province that has an official language of French.
They focus on early intervention programs, particularly for children from vulnerable backgrounds.
That's so sad.
Well, it's just a thing that they do, I guess. They like to
It's just a thing they do.
literacy and numeracy. Obviously, it's a common theme. You want to expose the kids to reading, writing, numbers. Again, with the emotional regulation, social group dynamics, physical health and well-being. I support that. I like the physical overall wellness. They also support the dual language approach, English and French, and how languages have an immersion impact on children's academic development.
How language immersion impacts children's academic development.
On a side note, I will say from a personal development, because I had to learn 3 languages at one point in my youth, there is a point of detriment, of confusion that can occur, especially, like, yes, children are sponges, but myself, I could speak from personal experience. There's a point where when you're throwing things at them and when you start getting into the nitty-gritty of 3 very different languages, namely English, French, and Polish, the conjugation floats over from French to Polish really nicely, where there's like female, male, and different well, the way you conjugate words. But the one thing, like, none of that really applies to English.
No.
For the most part. So
English is
when you start taking English classes, you go, well, this doesn't make sense. And then when you start getting into you start crisscrossing your words from the other 2 languages, and English is what everybody else is speaking. In the school environment, that's when you go, WTF. And I feel like the biggest thing that I took away from, like, as a negative for multiple languages is the science math. If you switch hard from French predominantly taught science and math curriculum to English, there's a loss in translation. I personally had that because it was like, yes, multiplication sounds like multiplication, but like the fact of the matter, there's other terminology in there that, like, you have to relearn essentially your other your grades to catch up. There's a huge catch up factor, and if the effort isn't applied to teach it or learn it, you could very well suffer for it. And I'm not blaming anybody but myself, but I was elementary school kid. Like, it was one of those learnings. I would caution people of pressuring too many languages if the student is not apt to learn them.
Well, and I've heard that from other French. That's my water.
Oh, sorry.
Drink your water. Sorry.
Very protective over water. You wouldn't want to get my cooties.
No, I've heard that from other French immersion students. Like, most of the ones that I know of were only just learning French and English, but once they got to high school, so some of my friends in high school, they were French immersion from elementary and junior high, and then when they got to high school, they didn't have French immersion, unless you wanted to go to some fancier school in the big city. So they had to switch, and they found, like, I didn't hear much about the math specifically, but the French, like French, Spanish, no. The science was a big switch, because you're going from, like, learning the French terms for things into learning the English terms, and it, like you said, there are some things that get lost in translation, and you have to struggle. You have to make an extra effort to learn it, or else you'll fall behind. Lots of them had struggles in them.
Spelling was this is a weird memory. Fun fact of traumatizing from elementary school. I was literally made an example of because I couldn't spell all. I spelt it OL because logically, and then like my teacher, she's like, all, you can't spell all, and it was like ALL on the board, and like the whole class burst out laughing. I'm like, ooh, like where'd that come from?
I mean, meanwhile you're like
Ooh.
learning two other languages. You're like,
So that's a thing.
because I mean, I don't know specifically for Polish, but like you have learned, and I've noticed this in your spelling too, right? Like you've learned how to spell things phonetically. So if it's a trickier word, like all, and you don't know exactly how it's spelled, like whatever. Same thing with the word I, like I-E or not I-E-Y-I.
So Nova Scotia.
E-Y-E. E-Y-E is not a word that you'd necessarily know how to spell unless you've actually learned how to spell it, because it is a very tricky word to spell, especially when I'm talking and it's tired.
It's tired.
Yes, it's tired.
Let's move on. We're a few provinces away
Nova
from
Scotia.
the end here.
So Nova Scotia's curriculum is more play-based, emphasizes development through exploration, play, and social interaction. Focusing again on well-being through physical health and emotional development, communication skills through language development in conversation, reading, and writing, cognitive development through problem-solving, reasoning, and critical thinking, and social development where your focus is to understand relationships and community. Nova Scotia's early childhood education action plan and a push for universal pre-kindergarten program. So I'm guessing that there is not a universal preschool program, and they want to bring that into
Existence.
fruition. Yes.
The smallest of the provinces, the island, Prince Edward Island. The PEI emphasizes the balance between play and formal learning with a focus on readiness for grade 1. They want you to be physically developed with your motor skills and healthy living. They want social skills, cooperation, communication, relationship building, language and literacy, reading, writing, oral communication, and mathematics, introduction to numbers and simple operations. Addition, subtraction, I'm going to guess. They like to... PEI's unique challenges as a small province is integrating diverse learning needs into a standardized curriculum. I'm guessing due to population.
Yeah.
I don't know what the population is, but I know it's small. So it's they probably have class size issues and just like, I wonder at what point it. Yeah.
I wonder how many of them get bussed out to a different province.
Yeah, maybe.
That could be a potential.
Yeah, that's a thing.
Newfoundland and Labrador. So their curriculum is very play-based learning, with an emphasis on exploratory and experiential learning. So I'm sensing a theme here.
Yeah, I mean, it's granted it's going to be similar across Canada, right? It's just interesting to see the differences. That's kind of why I wanted to go through it.
Yeah. So focus on emotional and social development, building resiliency and independence. There's literacy and numeracy again, so learning early literacy, math concepts are taught through play. That could be fun. Physical development, so encouraging outdoor play and physical health.
That's nice.
Newfoundland focuses on outdoor learning and the integration of local culture and environmental studies in the early years, which sounds amazing.
It does. I like, obviously, as mentioned, like it's going to be standard, not standardized, but it's going to be similar across the provinces. There's going to be some similarities. Some of the differences, though, I mean, obviously the whole play-based versus structured learning thing, it's kind of interesting because it's like a balance between free exploration and guided education. So it's like child-led or teacher-led. We obviously gravitate towards child-led in this home.
Specifically as a homeschool group.
Yeah, no, but yeah, I imagine it's a hot topic across all the provinces.
Mm-hmm.
Just like who's in charge here? Is it having the bilingual stuff in the French provinces is interesting as well. It makes sense that it exists there,
Mm-hmm.
for their own. It is a government school, so
Well, and Canada does have 2 official languages, right?
Mhm.
We have French and English.
there's still French classes in
Yep.
in
No, I
most
took
provinces.
I took
I'd
French
imagine.
classes up until grade 9 when it became an elective.
Yeah.
And do I remember anything? I remember pamplemousse. That's
Je
it.
suis un grand pamplemousse.
Yeah.
Où est la salle de bain?
I could say other things, but I learned that in high school, and it was related to doing a play called Streetcar Named Desire. It is not something that I would share with most people.
Fair. Mon crayon est grand et jaune. So,
Yeah.
it's if you know what I said, write it in the comments down below.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sure it could be translated now, and it's like close captioned.
Probably captioned.
Anyway, so in the prairies, there's some differences in the curriculums.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily specifically say that it is the prairies in general.
I feel like it, just from reading from our the research, it seemed that way.
There is quite a large indigenous population in many of the provinces, and then specifically in the territories. But many of the provinces are working actively to integrate indigenous knowledge and perspectives into their curriculums. There's also a huge push right now, obviously, for more of the reconciliation based learning. Like I remember being in elementary school learning about the settlers and how woo, the settlers were awesome, blah blah blah, but we never learned about residential schools. And then, fast forward 20 plus years, I don't remember.
Just look at the news.
Yeah, fast forward many years, and we now have, well, not that we currently now have this situation, because obviously it's been going on for years, but it is something that we're now actively building into the curriculum, where we're trying to change up the way that we explain our history, right? To be focused more on accuracy of
It's
how things went.
the old adage is it doesn't wholly apply here, but it's like the history is written by the victor. History was in a sense written by the victor, and now it's trying to be fixed to a certain extent. It's trying to be
More accurate.
perspective is
Yeah.
trying to be given to
Yes.
the whole scenario.
That's a good way of putting it.
But
Outdoor learning, or outdoor and experiential learning. Okay, I'll continue then.
Yeah.
Several provinces, such as Newfoundland and Saskatchewan, are emphasizing more of an outdoor learning and the role of nature in education. I know I, for one, love that, which is why we've kind of based our entire homeschool co-op on outdoor experiential play, and that kind of stuff. Just being outdoors, there's so many positives to it, obviously. Yeah.
The physical, you cover a lot of the Canada-wide curriculum needs, I'll say. Like there's the social aspects, especially in our co-op. There's the cooperation, there's the socialization, there's the there's problem solving, there's everything you could always integrate, well, technically anywhere you are, but particularly when you're outdoors and you have so much to work with.
Plus getting the fresh air and being outside, getting the sunlight.
While the snow isn't here.
Well, I mean, even still, when the snow's here, we're going to be outside too, as much as we can, right?
Yeah, within reason. I think kind of tie it all back to homeschooling, because that's what we're doing. Knowing what we have across the provinces, and like, you know, there's themes that we're obviously integrating, and we're meeting our province's curriculum needs. I'd like to think that, you know, if we could excel at you know, Canada-wide curriculum, is there anything you took away from this that we could potentially integrate into ours?
Clearly the French immersion.
Yes, we will be learning French, speaking French in this household going forward.
All I will say
this
is
podcast is now going to be French.
Yeah, no, it's just something that I've noticed is if we sit down with our daughter and we are learning this thing, and it's very like
Rigid.
sit down, rigid, she has a hard time sitting still and being focused.
A 5-year-old? Really?
I know. For more than like maybe 15 minutes if she's not interested. But if I add a spin of play, like for example, we've been working on, you know, developing reading. And so one of those things is learning phonics and the letter sounds.
Yeah.
So we had a book that we were using to learn those things, and she would be able to sit through a lesson. But once the lessons got a little bit more challenging, we needed to split the lesson up into two parts. And then it became really, like, it became a struggle to get through those two parts separately.
There was an invisible wall, like, you hit.
Yeah, it's like her brain just, it overloaded. It got redlined real fast. But one of the things that I noticed, too, is, like, when I got this game, it's called, I think it's called Word Pop. It's got, like, CVC, so consonant, vowel, consonant words. Like mat, bat, sat, mud, you know, that kind of stuff. When I got that and we pulled it out and we actually started playing, she was able to sit down and like focus on that for, I think we played for a solid hour.
Oh yeah.
Before she started like, okay, this is too much.
Yeah.
But it was play based. It was engaging. We were working together. Because like I would present her with a card that had the word on it, and then we would sound it out together. And like sometimes she forgets what letter sounds they are, so I would remind her. And then I have like some of the, like for I, for example, it's my icky letter. It's icky, you know, because it makes an I sound.
Yep.
For no, or for N, it makes a N sound, so it's like in my nose, and it tickles my nose.
Yeah.
So we have like different ways that I kind of remind her of things. For like A, when it makes an ah sound, I go ah. She just giggles.
I've found her storytelling has evolved a lot lately too.
Yeah, she's been really like engaged in the imagination.
I found two things helped with that. First off, she has a Yoto player that she listens to, like these little stories and podcasts and whatnot on. Of our, like, she has these little cards, and she slides them in whatever she wants, and she could listen to them. Either they're reading a story, or it's a podcast, or it's of our choosing, you know, something there. And the other thing is we got her a camera, like a kid's camera that she essentially like vlogs.
Does. She hears me doing voice clips throughout the day to various people, and so she decided that she's going to start making voice clips, and so she talks to herself in the camera, and it's the cutest thing.
Yeah. We got to start saving some of those.
I know. I had so many on the iPad, and she's filled up my iPad storage.
Well, we have to start using the drive, clearly, here.
Yeah, but now that she has her own camera, she likes to use her camera. And I need to get that memory card one day and just plug it into my computer and, like, take all of it off.
That's a good call.
Save it.
I find like reading in the evenings is obviously helping. She's obviously interested in the book still, and I just it used to be like you read one page, I read one page, but she was a little apprehensive, and she started getting, it wasn't as enjoyable for her evidently, and so I just basically just every now and then I just don't say a word, and she just like fills in the blank basically. So like the way I do it is as I'm reading, I'm pointing to each word, going through, and then when I feel like it's a word that she'll know, or maybe even she's memorizing it, but the point is she sees the word and she says it, and sometimes she'll just fill in a blank something that makes sense but isn't that word. If but it, oh, that's a good idea, but this is what the word says. So it's just like little things like that.
And memorization is actually one of the steps towards learning to read, which is great.
Obviously literacy is a huge focus for all provinces, so I feel like we're covering that well. Numeracy, counting,
she's so good with her math.
Yeah, we're into multiplication at this point. It's pattern recognition, making the games we play, math,
music we listen to, the number blocks. We
do a lot of math even during like cooking, baking. We do a lot of baking, probably to our own detriment. But we do counts for like how many cups, how many eggs, and just she's starting to memorize the recipes now, which is cute.
She loves counting things. Oh my goodness, she's constantly counting.
What was the thing she stumped you on?
Oh, okay. So the other day, just out of nowhere, she's like, "Mama, 1 + 2 + 3 + 4 + 5 is 15." I'm like, took me a moment, and I had to add it up, and honestly, I used my fingers, and then I was like, "You're right." She's like, "I learned that from the number blocks." And I'm like, "Okay." And then she found it hilarious, so she kept saying it to me. She's like, 1 + 2 + 3 + 4 + 5. She tried to explain it to me actually too. She's like, "Well, 5, and then 2 + 3 is 5, and 1 and 4 is 5." And I was like, "Oh yeah, and then 3 × 5 is where my brain went. 3 × 5 is 15." And she's like, "Yep." Okay.
Duh, Mama. Don't you know?
When she was just like 1 + 2 + 3 + 4 + 5 is 15, I'm like, my brain short-circuited for a second. I was like, "What?" Yeah.
Come on, Mama. Where's your mental math?
I know. I was just like,
she's gonna start quizzing you as she gets better.
Well,
we gotta step up our game.
It's all good because I've been listening to the number blocks, and they have a really good math curriculum.
If you don't know what the number blocks are, they have like they're on YouTube, they're on Spotify. But the Spotify songs are really good because they go through there's lots.
Yeah, there's so many. It's also on Netflix. It's a Netflix show.
They're British BBC, I guess. So really cute, really great stuff.
They teach like from basic math all the way up to like I think they have division, and obviously they have multiplication. So that's been really good.
Next thing that a homeschooler could do to make sure that they have social emotional development, a school co-op. That's finding people that you can mesh with, that you can socialize, you can have play dates, you can make them social, you can make it a co-op like we've done, just even role playing with your kids. So I find those are helpful. We often play shop in the bathtub, where she's selling me, and this is also I grill her on math too, so she sells me a sandwich made out of numbers and letters, because we have numbers and letters in the bath, but she makes a sandwich with the different colors, and do you want lettuce, tomato, anyway. So she puts together a sandwich, and it used to be like, I used to ask her like, "Oh, how much for the sandwich?" And she would see, before she learned that multiple letters, I would ask her to make me 2 sandwiches or 3 sandwiches. So now it's always one. It's $1. Everything's $1. I'm like, oh, okay. Then I start changing it to like, oh, I want 4 of those and 2 of those, and then I make her add. And anyway, and then now I've started to get her to give me change. So I've been doing like, oh, I only have $5 for your $1 sandwich. How much do you give me back?
Yeah.
And so I just switch it up that way. So, crossing the social and the everything, but even just going out to the store. Today, she literally did, when we went to the store, she did 100% of the self-checkout all by herself.
Awesome.
I asked her.
She paid too?
She paid. I
Wow.
gave her the credit card and I said, "You just tap right here." And she paid. She took everything out of the cart, scanned it, put it in the little weigh thing. She even scanned the little whatever card for the points. She paid, and then loaded the cart back up while I went to go get the jug of water.
Nice.
So and then the self checkout lady that watched, she's just like watching in amazement this 5-year-old doing the whole thing, when like I'm sure there's some people like that are mature adults that are have trouble with it.
Well, it's kind of a game for her, right?
Yeah.
Like she loves scanning. She loves finding the UPC and like going doot and then like putting it over.
Yeah.
She loves that.
She did. I was very proud of her. And yeah, so
Homeschool for the win.
science and environmental awareness. I think you feel like you can cover this one.
Oh yeah, I'm just getting sore from
I'm
sitting on
stealing
my hip. Why?
Because I'm out.
Anyways, so like for us in our homeschool co-op, a lot of our focus is on nature and the natural sciences. So we do a lot of like outdoor exploration and a lot of like nature walks. So this could just be as simple as going out to the park and just walking, right? Where your child can observe the environment and be immersed in nature. You can use that time to also talk about any of the plants that you see, any animals, what the weather's like, different ecosystems.
Any questions that they ask are basically just windows of opportunity.
Yep.
At that point.
I love it. Like, we oftentimes, especially when our daughter was a little bit younger, she would ask questions about like, we've seen like, I don't know, maybe a goose on our walk to the park or whatever, and she'd be like, oh, what's that? And I'd tell her it's about like a goose, and then we'd talk about like, maybe if it's in the fall, we talk about like the migration of the geese to the southern states type of thing, and like how that would look like, and blah blah blah, all that stuff. So that's kind of one of the things that we would do. Simple science experiments, so really engaging in hands-on experiments that introduce basic concepts in science. So easy enough: vinegar, baking soda. What happens?
Even making the slimes.
Yeah,
And
she loves the slimes. But like even just looking at different chemical reactions between things, like we have
watercolor, like colors in the water and mixing the waters, the colors.
Yeah, food coloring. One of the things that we really like too is we like changing color things. So we have butterfly pea flowers that you can brew into a tea, and then if you add a little bit of like lemon juice, it'll change the color from blue to purple.
Because
or
of
like
the
a
acidity?
pinky color. Yeah. Super fun.
We do a lot of gardening.
We do a lot of gardening. Our girl can take you through a garden tour and tell you about every single plant we have in our garden. Which, like, granted, we don't have a big garden, but she can tell you about it.
Yep. And then,
And STEM kits. So STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. We love these.
Yep.
Like, we've got a couple of them. We've got the magnet one, and we've got
we have a circuit one.
Yeah, a circuit one.
So that's I've been enjoying that one. Just like teaching her how to build a circuit with a battery, a light and a switch, how to do it with a motor, how to reverse the polarity and the direction of the motor. Like she knows how to wire a DC circuit basically, and she understands the concepts of like the different types of switching, the different types of loads, the different type, like the book that comes with the circuit, like you wire them in series and parallel, and just she's witnessed the differences between when you wire it in each. Might not completely understand them, but you know, it's introduction to the concept.
Yeah.
So it's you know, and you could build on it easily with you know, as the knowledge expands.
Yeah. Now you gotta wire the house child. Go.
Well, she's already helped me on some work, so
Yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously the physical development. You know, outdoor play is key for that. Doing we do extracurriculars, dance, gymnastics. We've done swimming. You know, the standard stuff there.
Keeping the child exercised, because if she's not completely worn out by the time she gets to bedtime, she's got wiggles.
Yeah. And just fine motor skills as well, like arts and crafts, cuttings with scissors, building with blocks. We did a whole sewing activity.
We're doing that next week with the homeschool group. We're doing
should I
embroidery.
3D print a whole bunch of needles or something, or buttons?
No.
Okay, then never mind.
Sorry, we're doing it in the hoops.
I got excited.
I know.
3D printing things.
Yeah.
And then obviously, yeah, that flows into the arts and crafts, creativity, art, allowing her space to pick her mode of expression, making it clean, and then just allowing her to just go wild on it. You know, there's I feel like there's at least once a day where she just sits down and creates something.
She loves painting and drawing so much. And like right now she's really big into slime, which is fun. And with that, like, I noticed that she tends to pretend that everything is slime, right down to her food. So last week I was like, okay, we can't smoosh our food pretending it's slime, because this is food and we want to eat it, and if you're not eating it, then I want someone else. Like, I want
the leftovers. Papa wants leftovers for lunch.
So I got some cornstarch, and we got some lotion, and I looked up a really, really quick cloud dough dough.
Dough?
Yeah, dough. Cloud dough recipe. There we go. She was downstairs at the time, so I like set up the ingredients, and I said, okay, come upstairs, and she's like, what are we doing? And I'm like, sit down. You have this and you have this. What happens if you mix them? And she was just like, okay. And she mixed them together, and she found that it created a dough. And she thought it was so cool, she wanted to do another one. And I did not have all the ingredients. Now we do.
And so, yeah, I mean, as a homeschooler, these are kind of the main things that you could do to cover across all provinces. You could incorporate the, just a rehash. You got your numeracy, it's mathematics, numbers, literacy,
language arts,
and then social, emotional development, science, environmental awareness, and then physical development, and then creativity. They obviously intertwine. They're not individuals. You could weave them back and forth, and everything is everything. That you don't.
Everything is everything.
Everything is everything.
Okay.
What are your final thoughts, or resources?
I would say, like, one of my final thoughts is like, oftentimes, depending on which province you're in for homeschooling, there is maybe an association, or I think, like, I know specifically in Alberta, they have different boards that they could join, like school boards that you would be a part of, but like you'd be homeschooling. And oftentimes they have maybe a little bit of sway in what you can teach and what you are not allowed to teach, or ways that they want you to teach, I should say. So I know specifically in Manitoba, we don't get funding for homeschooling. So even though I have a homeschooling association that I have to report to say, yeah, my child is going to, she's going to be homeschooling, and this is what I think we're going to be doing. If they come back and they're like, well, this isn't good enough, all right, cool. That's what you think. Nice. Moving on. Because I don't get funding from them, so they really have no sway. But in Alberta, for example, if you join one of their boards, you get a certain amount of money,
Therefore,
which
they can
then
dictate.
they have a little bit more say in what you have to teach
We
or
will
how
not
you
give you
teach.
money if you do not do what we say.
Yeah,
We have this way. Do what we say.
So just take a look at what you have available to you in your province.
So if you don't take their funding, or if you don't need their funding, they don't have a say.
No.
So it's just if you need the funding.
Yeah, and a lot of people do take it. Like it's a couple
why not,
$100.
right?
Why not?
Take it and run. But
yeah. But I was gonna say too, like a lot of provinces have their curriculums on like their educational websites. Like what was it, the Ministry of Education, and you can go and look at them and see what your children are learning throughout school.
Yeah, and there's tons of free ones too, like Khan Academy, and like you're not limited to their.
No, what I'm saying though is that your curriculum from school gives you a basis of what you should be learning at what stages.
Gotcha.
Which doesn't mean you can't move up or down depending on the child, right? Yeah. But that kind of gives you a starting point of where you should be looking at, right?
It's a minimum requirement.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so many different resources out there. Some are free, some are paid. You just have to look into them.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
I enjoyed this. I think we should do this yearly for what
age range our child is in.
Yeah, basically.
Cool.
Just to kind of recap what's out there as a standard, what's and not that we're not doing it, but it gives you good perspective of what's across Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks for tuning in. If you learned something, let us know what you learned down below. We do this every 2 weeks on Wednesday in the evening. Generally speaking, there's exceptions.
Sometimes.
We live busy lives and we do our best.
I am now responsibly teaching 20 children at a time. I have started my own school. It's great.
I think that if you're wondering, if you're in any one of the provinces or territories for that matter, or down in the States, if you've learned something, or if you wanted to add something to, if we missed or misrepresented something, let us know. Obviously the goal was to be informative, and I think we covered it pretty decently.
Go us.
So thanks for tuning in. We have our website up. It's wildheartlegacy.com or .ca, and check us out on all the social media platforms out there, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram,
Facebook's.
What's your?
I'm Wildheart Motherhood.
I'm Wildheart Legacy. So if you follow us, chat with us, let us know your thoughts.
Yeah.
See if you want more of this content, let us know.
Yeah.
Thanks again, and we will sign off with the wonderful theme song that I love. See you next time.
Okay.
Where the heart beats free, we're crafting our dreams, just my family and me. From sunrise to sundown, we're making our way, building our legacy day by day. Welcome to the Wildheart Podcast, where passion meets purpose, homeschooling, homestead, and living dreams that serve us. Together we're stronger through every stormy weather. The Wildheart legacy bound forever. With hands in the soil and love in the air, we're teaching our young ones how to live and care in this simple life where the lessons are real. We're writing our story with every turn of the wheel. So join us on this journey where the wild hearts roll. In the Wildheart legacy, you'll always feel at home.